The dirt road held secrets, and on that cold, misty morning, it brought a woman with a baby in her arms and the weight of the world on her shoulders. They said the widowed farmer didn't ask questions. She just needed a corner. He just needed a reason to keep going. Sometimes God stitches new beginnings into the deepest wounds, and true love begins where shame ends. Subscribe to the channel for heartwarming stories every day. Dawn was creeping slowly over the São Sebastião farm, painting the fields that stretched as far as the eye could see in shades of grey and orange. Dew clung heavy on the cornstalks, and the cold June wind whistled through the barn's weathered planks. It was the kind of morning that called for a roaring fire, strong coffee, and silence, exactly what Tomás Alvarenga had cultivated for the past 5 years. He was in the barnyard when he saw the silhouette appear at the bend in the road. He stopped, hand on the gate, squinting. A woman, alone, carrying something against her chest. She walked slowly, as if she had no more strength, but also no other choice. Tomás wiped his hands on the rag hanging from his belt and walked to the porch of the house. The wood creaked under his boots. He waited, motionless, as she approached. When she finally crossed the wooden gate, he saw she was young, maybe 30, her face etched with exhaustion, her dark eyes filled with an ancient sadness. In her arms, wrapped in a worn blanket, a baby slept. "Good morning," she said, her voice hoarse. "Are you Tomás Alvarenga?" There was something about her that unsettled him, not out of suspicion, but because he recognized it. That look of someone carrying more than they should. That way of holding the child as if it were the only thing that still mattered. "Do you have experience with fieldwork?" She didn't answer. Tomás sighed deeply, running a hand through his graying beard. The house was too empty, the food tasteless, the garden neglected. He didn't need help. He needed a reason not to give up on waking up, but he'd never admit that out loud. "There's a room in the back, small but it'll do. Food's on the stove. Eat whatever you want. We'll sort out the details later." "You don't even know my name." He went back to the barnyard, but the image of the woman with the child in her arms stayed with him. It wasn't pity, it was recognition. He knew what it was like to carry an invisible burden. He knew what it was like to wake up and pretend it was still worth it. When the sun was high, she appeared in the kitchen. She had washed her face and tied back her hair. The baby slept in a makeshift basket of blankets. "I found beans and rice. Can I make lunch?" But that night, as he ate the best beans he'd tasted in years, Tomás realized something had changed. The house didn't feel so empty. The silence didn't hurt so much. And in the back room, Clara rocked her son and whispered an old prayer, the same one her grandmother used to say when all seemed lost. "May God give me the strength not to give up, and may this place be the new beginning I've prayed for." Clara woke before the sun, lit the wood stove and made coffee. Tomás ate without a word, thanked her with a nod, and went out to the fields. She cleaned the house, cared for the baby, mended clothes. At night, he'd return covered in dirt, wash his hands at the pump, and eat dinner alone. She'd eat later in the back room with little Pedro in her lap. They didn't talk, but they observed. Clara noticed he always left a cup of coffee ready on the table before he left, as if he knew she needed it. Tomás noticed she never ate until she was sure there was enough food for everyone. It was as if each knew the other's hunger, not the hunger of the stomach, but the hunger of the soul. On the 5th night, a storm broke over the farm. Rain hammered the tin roof, and the wind made the windows rattle. Clara was in the room, trying to calm Pedro, who cried incessantly. The little one was hot, his forehead burning. She wet a cloth and placed it on his forehead, but the crying only intensified. Fear rose in her throat like a cold hand. What if it was serious? What if she lost him too? There was a knock on the door. Tomás entered without waiting for an answer, carrying a lantern. His face was serious, but his eyes conveyed something Clara didn't expect. Concern. "He has a fever," he asked, already moving closer. She nodded, her voice caught. Tomas placed the lantern on the small table and extended his hands. "Let me see." Clara hesitated. It felt strange, dangerous even, to trust a man she barely knew. But something in his demeanor, in those large, calloused hands moving with care, made her hand over her son. Tomas held Pedro with a gentleness that seemed impossible for someone so large. He touched the baby's forehead, looked at his red eyes, listened to his breathing. "It's just a cold. But you need to keep him warm and give him plenty of water." Tomas nodded, not looking at her. Before he turned one, high fever. There was nothing to be done. The silence that followed was heavy. Clara felt tears burn, but she didn't let them fall. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "It was a long time ago," he said, his voice rough. "But some things don't pass. You just learn to carry them." He handed her the blanket and turned to leave. But before crossing the threshold, he stopped. "If you need me, just call." The rain had passed, but the sky was still heavy. She didn't know what to say, but she knew something had changed. Because when someone hands you their most painful memory, it's not just help. It's trust. It's a promise that you're not alone. And for the first time since she'd fled, Clara felt that maybe, just maybe, there was a place for her in the world. The news spread through the town like wildfire. Tomas Alvarenga, the reclusive widower who barely nodded to his neighbors, had hired a woman, a stranger, with a baby, and no one knew where she came from. At the Saturday market, Clara felt the weight of their stares. She'd come down to town to buy flour and soap, Pedro tied to her back with a cloth. The women whispered behind their stalls. The men watched her with suspicion. Even the priest, passing through the square, frowned when he saw her. "Morning," Clara greeted, trying to sound confident. The shopkeeper, Mrs. Marta, a woman with graying hair and a sharp gaze, replied coolly, "Morning. You're the lady staying at Tomas's place, right?" Clara nodded, holding out the money. "I need some flour and soap." Mrs. Marta took the coins slowly, examining them as if they were suspect. "How long have you known him?" "Long enough." "And the baby's father?" The silence was heavy. Clara tightened her lips. "I don't see how that's anyone's business." The shopkeeper raised an eyebrow, but handed over the goods. "Be careful, dear. We care about people's reputations around here, and Tomas has been through enough without getting mixed up in trouble." Clara took the packages and left without a word, but the words lingered, sharp as thorns. Trouble, as if she were a threat, as if carrying a child alone made her something less. When she returned to the farm, Tomas was mending the fence. He saw her tense face and stopped. "Something happened." Clara shook her head, but he didn't believe her. "Clara." She took a deep breath. "The whole town's talking. About me, about you. They say you shouldn't have me here." Tomas dropped his hammer and wiped his hands. "And you care what they say? I don't want to cause you trouble." "You're not causing any." He took a step forward, his gaze steady. "If people have time to gossip, it's because they've got nothing better to do, and I don't answer to anyone." Clara felt a knot in her throat. No one had ever stood up for her like this. Not the man who swore to love her and left her pregnant. Not the family who cast her out in shame. "Thank you," she whispered. Tomas just nodded and returned to his work. But that night, as they ate dinner, he said, "Tomorrow, you're coming with me to town. I want them to know you're here because I wanted you here, and what I do on my land is nobody else's business." Clara looked at him, surprised. "You don't have to do that." "I know, but I'm going to anyway." She lowered her eyes, feeling something strange in her chest. It wasn't love, not yet. It was something simpler and deeper, security. The feeling that for the first time, someone didn't see her as a burden, as a mistake. And as Pedro slept in his basket by the stove, Clara allowed herself to believe that maybe there was goodness in the world. that maybe God hadn't forgotten her, because sometimes the greatest courage isn't facing the world alone. It's letting someone stand beside you. Sunday dawned clear and cold. Tomas woke early as always, but this time he didn't head straight for the fields. He changed into a clean shirt, ran some water through his hair, and waited in the kitchen. When Clara appeared with Pedro in her arms, he was making coffee. "Morning," she said, surprised. "Morning, have some coffee. We'll head to town in a bit." Clara hesitated. "Tomas, you don't have to." "I know what I need to do." He cut her off, but not unkindly. "Trust me." She nodded. And for the first time since she'd arrived, Clara put on the only good dress she had, a simple navy blue, but clean. She tied back her hair, wiped Pedro's face, and took a deep breath. The walk to town was silent, but not uncomfortable. Tomas walked ahead, his steps long and firm. Clara followed, adjusting the baby in her arms. Some people watched them from windows. Others averted their gaze. When they reached the square, Tomas stopped in front of Mrs. Marta's general store. The woman was behind the counter, talking with some other ladies. When she saw them, she fell silent. "Morning, Mrs. Marta," Tomas said, his voice loud and clear. "Morning, Tomas. I'm here because I've heard some talk, and I want to make one thing perfectly clear." He gestured to Clara. "This young woman works for me, and she's under my protection. If anyone has a problem with that, they can speak to me directly." The silence was absolute. Mrs. Marta opened and closed her mouth, unsure what to say. The other women exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Tomas, no one meant any offense," Mrs. Marta began, but he interrupted her. "Then don't offend. Be respectful." He turned and walked away, Clara beside him. She was trembling, but not from fear, from something she couldn't name. Gratitude, relief, belonging. When they were far enough away, she finally spoke. "You didn't have to do that." "I did, because you deserve to walk with your head held high." Clara felt tears welling up, but she held them back. Pedro stirred in her arms, yawning. "Thank you." Tomas just nodded, but there was something different in his eyes, something lighter. The days that followed were filled with hard work, but also with discovery. Tomas taught Clara how to tend the garden, to plant beans and squash, to recognize medicinal herbs. She learned quickly, with a dedication he hadn't seen in years. In the evenings after dinner, Tomas began spending more time in the kitchen. He'd mend tools while Clara darned clothes. Pedro slept in his basket, lulled by the sound of low voices and the crackle of the fire. One night, Tomas asked, "Do you read?" Clara looked at him, surprised. "A little. My grandmother taught me." He got up, went to a cupboard, and returned with a worn book. It was my wife's. She liked to read before bed. He extended the book. "Maybe you'll like it." Clara took the book carefully, as if holding something sacred. The pages were yellowed, but the scent of old paper brought comfort. "I'll take good care of it." "I know." That night, Clara read a few pages by lamplight, and for the first time in months, she felt she wasn't just surviving, she was living. Because starting over isn't about forgetting, it's about planting roots in new soil and believing this time they'll hold. Spring had arrived timidly, bringing a light rain and a persistent chill that refused to leave. Clara woke in the pre-dawn chill, sensing something was wrong. Pedro was burning up, his little face flushed, eyes glazed over. She scooped him into her arms, her heart pounding. "Tomas!" she cried, her voice trembling. He appeared in seconds, still in a t-shirt and barefoot. "What is it?" "He's got a high fever, really high." Tomas touched the baby's forehead and frowned. "I'll go get the doctor." "He won't come all the way out here," Clara said, desperate. "And the town is too far." "Then I'll take him." Tomas pulled on his boots, grabbed his jacket and held out his arms. "Give him to me. You're coming with me." Clara hesitated only a second before handing over her son. The three of them stepped out into the cold pre-dawn, crossing the dirt road under the faint moonlight. Tomas carried Pedro, wrapped in a blanket, walking quickly but carefully. Clara followed beside him, her hands shaking. When they reached the doctor's house, Tomas knocked hard on the door. Dr. Evans, a middle-aged man with round glasses, opened it, still groggy. But upon seeing the child, his expression changed. "Come in." Quickly, he examined Pedro carefully, listening to his chest, looking at his throat, checking his temperature. Clara was holding Tomas's hand without realizing it, squeezing it tight. He didn't pull away. "It's a respiratory infection," the doctor said finally. "It's not serious, but it needs care. I'll give you some medicine, and you'll need to apply a cold compress to his forehead and keep a close eye on him. If it gets worse, come back." Clara felt her legs go weak with relief. Tomas held her arm, his grip firm. "Thank you, doctor." They returned to the farm with the medicine and instructions. Clara didn't let Pedro out of her sight for a second. She rocked him, changed cold cloths on his forehead, and gave him the medicine with infinite patience. Tomas stayed by her side all night, making tea, bringing blankets, holding the oil lamp. In the pre-dawn hours, when the fever finally began to subside, Clara leaned her head against the wall and closed her eyes, exhausted. "Rest for a bit," Tomas said, his voice low. "I'll stay with him." "I can't, Clara." "Rest?" She looked at him, at this man who had set aside his own sleep to care for a child who wasn't his, and something inside her fractured, not from pain, but from tenderness. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice choked. Tomas was silent for a long moment. Then, still looking at Pedro, he replied, "Because I know what it's like to lose someone. And I know what it's like to have no one when you need them most." He looked at her. "And because you're not just guests here anymore. He paused, searching for words. "Your family." Clara felt tears welling up, hot and silent. For the first time, she didn't try to hide them. "Thank you," she whispered. Tomas simply nodded and went back to rocking Pedro, who was finally sleeping soundly. And as the sun began to rise outside, Clara understood that she had found something she never expected: a home. Not in the walls of the house, but in the heart of a man who, like her, had learned that caring is the purest form of love. Weeks passed, and life on the farm settled into its own rhythm. Pedro grew, smiling more, babbling sounds that made Tomas smile too. Clara took on not only the housework, but also the garden and some of the animal chores. They were no longer employer and employee. They were something neither of them could name, but both of them felt. Until one windy afternoon, a man appeared at the gate. Clara was hanging laundry when she heard the sound of horses. She turned and felt a chill run down her spine. It was him, Julio, Pedro's father. He dismounted with his usual arrogance, hat in hand, and a smile Clara knew all too well, the smile of someone who never asks, only takes. "Clara," he said, opening his arms, "finally found you." She recoiled, instinctively shielding the baby asleep in the basket at her feet. "What do you want?" "I've come to get you, and the boy." He stepped closer. "I made a mistake, Clara, but I'm ready now. We can start over." "You abandoned me," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "You left me alone, pregnant with nothing, and now you want to come back?" "I was confused, but now I know what I want." He held out his hand. "Come with me." "No." His smile vanished. "No, you heard me. I'm not going anywhere with you." Julio narrowed his eyes. "This kid is my son. I have rights. You have nothing. You walked out on us, and now it's too late." Before he could reply, Tomas appeared, coming from the field. He saw the scene and quickened his pace, his expression grim. "Is there a problem here?" Julio looked Tomas up and down, assessing him. "And who are you?" "Owner of this land, and the safety of those on it." Julio laughed, but it was a hollow sound. "I see. So that's how it is? You think you can keep what's mine?" "I belong to no one," Clara cut in, her voice firm. "And neither does Pedro. You forfeited your right to call him yours the day you disappeared." Julio took a menacing step forward, but Tomas placed himself between him and Clara. "I think you should leave," Tomas said, his voice low and dangerous. "This isn't over," Julio snarled. "I'll be back, and when I come back, I'll bring authority. I'll prove this child is mine. And that you," he pointed at Clara, "can't take care of him on your own." He mounted his horse and rode off, kicking up dust. Clara stood frozen, trembling. Tomas turned to her. "Can he do that? Take Pedro?" Tomas took a deep breath. "I don't know, but I won't let him." Clara felt her legs grow weak. Tomas held her by the shoulders, his grip firm. "Listen, I won't let him take you. Do you hear me? I promise." She looked into his eyes and saw something she'd never seen before, absolute determination. And in that moment, Clara realized it wasn't just gratitude she felt, it was trust, it was security, it was love. But saying it now would be too dangerous, because the past had returned, and it threatened to destroy everything she had finally found. That night, Tomas sat on the porch, thinking. And Clara in the bedroom hugged Pedro and cried silently, praying to God not to let it all fall apart. Not now, not when she finally had something worth fighting for. 3 days later, the letter arrived. The mailman handed over the envelope sealed with the county court's stamp. Tomas opened it with dirt-stained hands, read it in silence, and felt his jaw clench. Clara was in the kitchen when he entered. From his face, she already knew. "What does it say?" Tomas held out the letter. She read it, her hands trembling. "You are hereby summoned, Ms. Clara dos Santos, to appear for the custody hearing of the minor Pedro, son of Julio Mendez Ferreira, on October 15th at 10 a.m. at the court of the county of San Vicente. The petitioner alleges abandonment of home and maternal incapacity." Clara let the letter drop onto the table. The word unfit echoed in her mind like a gunshot. "He's saying I'm unfit," she whispered, incredulous. "He's the one who left me." "I know," Tomas said, controlling his anger, "but the law isn't always fair. And now, what do I do?" Tomas moved closer, holding her shoulders. "We fight. I know the judge. He's a good man. And we're going to show him who you are, who we are. We, yes, we." He took a deep breath. "Clara, I'm not going to let you face this alone. Ever." She felt tears fall. But for the first time, they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of something deeper, hope. In the following weeks, Tomas and Clara prepared. They visited the pastor, who wrote a letter attesting to Clara's good character. They visited Dr. Evans, who documented Pedro's health care. They visited neighbors who, despite initial gossip, admitted Clara was hardworking and dedicated. But the most crucial piece came on a cold night, when Tomas sat at the table with a blank sheet of paper. "What are you doing?" Clara asked. "Writing a letter." "To the judge." "About what?" He hesitated, then said, "About you, about us, about what a real family is." Clara sat beside him, reading over his shoulder as he wrote. "What she found was more than a job. She found a home. I have seen this woman care for her child with a love few know. I've seen her rise before the sun, work until her hands bled, and still rock her child, singing. I've seen her refuse help because she has pride, but accept support because she has wisdom. The man who abandoned her now returns, not out of love, but for possession. And the law, which should protect, threatens to punish the one who has suffered the most. I ask that you see Clara for who she is, a mother, and that you see Pedro for what he needs, to be in the arms of the one who never abandoned him. As many times as it takes." And that night, as the fire crackled and Pedro slept soundly, Clara and Tomas remained side by side, not as employer and employee, but as two survivors who had decided not to give up. Because sometimes fighting isn't about winning, it's about not letting them take away what matters most. The morning of October 14th dawned misty. Clara sat in the kitchen, looking at the simple dress she had hastily sewn. Tomorrow was the hearing, and she didn't know if she'd have the strength to face Julio, the judge, and all the hypocrisy of the law. Tomas entered, holding a mug of coffee. He sat beside her in silence. Then, after a long minute, he said, "Marry me." Clara blinked, certain she had misheard. "What? Marry me? Today? We'll go to the pastor, have the ceremony, and tomorrow I'll introduce you as my wife." He looked at her, serious. "Julio can claim you're alone, that you don't have a stable home. But if you're married to me, he has no argument." "Tomas!" Clara shook her head, stunned. "You don't have to do this. I know I don't, but I want to. It can't just be because of the hearing. It's not." He took her hand, firm. "Clara, I've known for a long time that you're more than just someone working here, you and Pedro. You've brought life to this house. You've given me a reason to wake up. I won't say it's love, because I don't know if I still know what that is. But I know I don't want you to leave here, ever." Clara felt her heart pound so hard it hurt. She looked at this man who had taken her in without questions, who had defended her in town, who had watched over Pedro when he was sick all night. And she realized that maybe love didn't need pretty words. Sometimes love was this, choosing to stay. "Okay," she whispered, "I'll marry you." Tomas let out the breath he'd been holding. "Then let's go." There were no flowers, no guests, no music, just two tired souls, a child in Clara's arms, and the ancient words that bound destinies. When the pastor said, "You may kiss the bride," Tomas hesitated. Clara looked at him, her eyes full of tears. And he, with gentleness, cupped her face and pressed his lips to hers, not with passion, but with promise. When they pulled apart, Clara whispered, "Thank you. No need to thank me. We're in this together now." They returned to the ranch hand in hand, and that night before they slept, Clara looked at the simple silver band on her finger and felt something new, peace. The certainty that no matter what happened tomorrow, she was no longer alone. And Tomas, lying in the next room, looked at the ring on his own finger and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The belief that, perhaps, God truly mended new beginnings in the deepest wounds. Because sometimes, the greatest courage isn't facing the world. It's letting someone in and promising, "I'm staying." Julio was already there, accompanied by a lawyer in a dark suit and a confident air. He looked at Clara and Tomas with an arrogant smile. "Got married, huh?" he scoffed. "Think that's going to change anything?" Tomas took a step forward, but Clara gripped his arm. "Let him talk." When the judge entered, everyone stood. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and a weary expression. He sat down, adjusted his glasses, and opened the file. "Well, we are here to discuss the custody of the minor Pedro. Mr. Julio Mendez Ferreira alleges abandonment of home and the mother's unfitness. Ms. Clara Alvarenga, how do you respond?" Clara stood up, trembling. "I didn't abandon anything. I was the one who was abandoned. Pregnant, no money, no support. Julio disappeared for months, and now he returns wanting the son he never wanted?" Julio's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client acknowledges the mistake, but is now prepared to take responsibility. His mother, on the other hand, has no income of her own, is living with relatives." "She's not living with relatives," Tomas interrupted, standing up. "She's my wife." The judge raised an eyebrow. "And when did you get married?" "Yesterday." The lawyer smiled, triumphant. "Your Honor sees a marriage of convenience, clearly arranged for this hearing." "It's not one of convenience," Tomas said, his voice firm. "It's real, and even if it had been arranged, it would still be better than handing a child over to a man who abandoned her." The judge banged his gavel. "Order. Mr. Tomas, Do you have anything to declare? Tomas took a deep breath and pulled a paper from his pocket, the letter he had written. He handed it to the judge, who read it in silence. The man's face showed no emotion, but he requested, "Call Dr. Estevam and Father Francisco." Minutes later, the doctor and the priest entered, giving their testimonies. They spoke of Clara, her dedication, her care, her struggle. They spoke of Tomas, his integrity, his protection, his choice to welcome. Julio, irate, exploded, "This is ridiculous. He's my son." "Biologically, perhaps," said the judge, his voice cutting. "But a father is one who raises, not one who fathers." He looked at Clara. "Mrs. Clara, what do you wish?" Clara held Pedro close to her chest. "I just want my son to grow up knowing he is loved, and that he never again feels the abandonment I felt." The judge nodded. He banged his gavel. "Custody remains with the mother, Clara Alvarenga. Mr. Julio Mendez Ferreira has not presented evidence of adequate conditions, nor of an emotional bond with the child. Case closed." Clara broke down in tears. Tomas embraced her, holding her and Pedro together. Julio, furious, left, slamming the door. Outside, under the afternoon sun, Clara looked at Tomas. "We did it. We did it." And for the first time, Clara allowed herself to smile. A genuine smile from someone who had finally found her place in the world. 6 months later, the São Sebastião farm was unrecognizable. The vegetable garden flourished with greens and flowers. The barn had been renovated. The house, which once smelled of emptiness, now smelled of fresh bread and coffee. Clara was in the kitchen preparing lunch when she heard Pedro's laughter from the yard. She looked out the window and saw Tomas carrying the boy on his shoulders, running among the chickens. Pedro giggled, patting his father's hat with his little hands. Father. That's what he called Tomas now. And Tomas, who had lost a son years ago, had gained another, not by blood, but by choice. Clara wiped her hands on her apron and went out to the porch. Tomas brought Pedro back, the boy still laughing. "Look who's hungry," Tomas joked. Clara took Pedro into her arms, kissing his rosy cheek. "Go wash your hands, young man. Lunch is on the table." They sat together, the three of them, and ate slowly, talking about plans for the week. Tomas wanted to fix the east fence. Clara wanted to plant sunflowers in the flower bed. Pedro just wanted to play. At night, after they put the boy to bed, Tomas and Clara stayed on the porch, looking at the stars. "Do you remember the day you arrived here?" Tomas asked. "How could I forget?" Clara smiled. "I thought you were going to send me away the first week, and I thought you were going to leave on your own." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "And look where we are now." Tomas put his arm around her shoulders. "You know I love you, right?" Clara looked up, surprised. He had never said that before. "I know," she whispered, "and I love you too." They kissed slowly under the starry sky. And when they pulled apart, Clara realized that true love wasn't what they sang about in songs or wrote about in books. It was this: waking up every day and choosing to stay. It was hot coffee on the table. It was holding hands in the field. It was rocking a child together. It was building, brick by brick, a life worth living. A few days later, Father Francisco visited the farm. He blessed the family, talked with Pedro, and before leaving said to Tomas and Clara, "You know God doesn't perform miracles the way we imagine, right? He stitches, with patience, with time. But when he's finished, we see that it all made sense." Clara smiled. "I know, Father. I know." And that night, while Pedro slept in his room, lulled by the wind, Clara looked around. She saw the house that had become a home. She saw the man who had become a husband. She saw the life that had been reborn from scratch. And she was grateful, not just to God, but to the dirt road that had brought her there, to the cold dawn, to the first shared coffee, to the borrowed blanket, to the simple gestures that had built something great, because sometimes starting over isn't going back to what was. It's accepting that the best is yet to come. It's understanding that true love doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives slowly, with calloused hands and an open heart, and that in the end, the home we choose is always the home we deserve. It's home now. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to receive new stories every day. What would you do in their place? Comment and share with someone special.